Let it be known, I am pissed at Sony. A couple of weeks ago, Sony made the announcement that the PlayStation 5 is in the last stages of its life. So why is this pissing me off? Support on game consoles is constantly diminishing in order to build up support for the newest console. But the thing with the PS5 is that its life cycle has blatantly sucked. Between the wild boar chase it took to get your hands on one, to the awful lineup of games on the console, I have come to regret my purchase of the PlayStation 5. Now, to be clear, I do feel a little bad for Sony. Launching a game console is kind of like getting a plane to take off. You can double check all the safety protocols and give every passenger their snacks, but it's hard to predict when one of the doors gets blown off, prompting an emergency landing. The PS5 was a little like this. At launch, it was near impossible to get your hands on one of these things. With supply chain issues throwing everything off, and blood-sucking scalpers buying all the consoles, getting a PS5 was ridiculously hard. But a rough launch doesn't doom a console right off the bat. No, the PS5 had a much bigger issue: a lack of interesting exclusive games. People don't buy consoles just to throw away money, they buy the consoles for the ease of getting into the gaming medium and the unique gaming experiences a console has. It's a little like streaming services. Why waste money every month on Paramount Plus when all the series you are interested are on Hulu? The PS5 had already failed to produce a convenient gaming experience for the average person, so they needed some exclusives to really reel in customers. And considering the awesome exclusive library on the PS4, the PS5 seemed to have some potential. The PS4 ruled with its exclusive game experiences. It had exclusives like God of War, Ghost of Tsushima, The Last Guardian, Horizon Zero Dawn, and a bunch of other cool titles. If Sony was able to curate such a great library of exclusive games, then they should have been working on making a similarly impressive lineup for the PlayStation 5. Except they didn't. For whatever reason, Sony dropped the ball on this one. There are two big issues with the exclusives on PS5. The first reason is that so many games are still coming out on the PS4. There are games like God of War Ragnarok, Elden Ring, Street Fighter, and just a couple weeks ago, Grand Blue Fantasy Relink launched on both PlayStation 5 and PlayStation 4. And there are more games that are still somehow coming to PlayStation 4 at the end of 2024. It's been 3.5 years since you launched the PS5. How is the PS4 still getting all these games? But the second reason is the most depressing. The exclusive games on PS5 just aren't interesting. Naughty Dog can't produce anything except for re-releasing The Last of Us for the 4th time in a row. And who in their right mind wants to play Spider-Man when superhero fatigue is setting in and Sony is releasing movies like Madam Web? Until Dawn was already on the PS4. No. Get back. We do not talk about that travesty here. Horizon Forbidden West is the worst game I've played in years, and I will not drag this video down by going on a diatribe about that obscene garbage. All of these things just pile up on each other. What's the point in buying a gaming console when all the exclusives suck? And all these interesting games are coming out on PS4 and PC. But the thing is, this could have been avoided. What, are you still mad about that comment about Horizon Forbidden West? Yeah, but I don't want to derail this video ranting about that game. Fine. If this video reaches 200 likes, I'll make a designated video of me giving Horizon Forbidden West another chance. Yes, I know that's a stretch for a channel as small as mine. That's because I don't want to touch this game again. Take a look at the PlayStation exclusive games I listed before. They all share the same genre: cinematic, story-driven games. As PlayStation consoles have become more and more powerful, Sony has become more and more obsessed with producing these games. The issue isn't that these games aren't good, some of them are great. The issue here is that Sony has been cutting out games that don't fit this genre. And when I mean cutting out, I mean keeping the production rights to beloved IPs and doing nothing with them because they don't fit that cinematic game obsession. Take Gravity Rush for instance. Created by Keiichiro Toyama, the creator of the Silent Hill games, Gravity Rush is a game series where players can bend gravity to do what they want. This is a thrilling and amazing game mechanic that makes both Gravity Rush games stand out from other titles. Sure, the game isn't perfect, and could certainly use some polish in some of the aspects of its design, but no other game out there allows me to bend the laws of physics like a balloon animal. Despite how unique and thrilling Gravity Rush is, Sony has done nothing to promote or even acknowledge this game in recent years. And if we're going to talk about IPs Sony owns, then we have to talk about the granddaddy of them all, Bloodborne. Bloodborne was developed in part by From Software, the studio that brought us Dark Souls, Elden Ring, and the whole Soulsborne genre. But among this fandom, there is one game that is constantly beloved and touted as the best, Bloodborne. And just like Gravity Rush, Sony has exclusive rights to Bloodborne. So have they done anything to give this game some affection? No, they've done less than nothing. They've ignored a massive and passionate fan base. In the years since Bloodborne came out, fans have created a plethora of fan projects. We have Bloodborne art competitions, Bloodborne Minecraft mods, Bloodborne fan graphic novels, Bloodborne demakes, Bloodborne Kart. With the atomic bomb explosion of popularity after Elden Ring, you would think that Sony would take advantage of From Software's most beloved IP, but it would appear that Sony isn't interested in that and have deprived Bloodborne fans of any hope for even a PC port of the game. Oh, and fun fact about Bloodborne Kart, Sony took notice of the fan project and forced them to remove the Bloodborne branding. Just like an invasive species invading an ecosystem, these cinematic games have taken over Sony's library and forced everything else out. Okay, so what? Sony just needs to greenlight a couple games on the sidelines and add some variety, right? Well, no. It's actually a little bit more dire than that. Both Bloodborne and Gravity Rush were developed in part by Japan Studios, a branch of Sony that focused on first-party games in Japan. The studio played integral parts in the development of games like The Last Guardian, Shadow of the Colossus, Gravity Rush, and Bloodborne. But after years of hard work, Sony began to diminish Japan Studios in 2021 into Team Asobi, which made Astro's Playroom. Yep, that's all they are now. The studio that brought us many classics has been denigrated into making games about this little robot and nothing else. However, Japan Studios, or Team Asobi, are in fact lucky, since they avoided the fate of London Studios. At the end of February this year, it was announced that Sony was laying off 8% of their workforce and closing their London Studios branch. London Studios had been hard at work developing a multiplayer title taking place in a modern fantasy London, and the concept art looked awesome! But the cancellation of this unnamed project and closure of London Studios brings up a bigger issue. Sony isn't just obsessed with cinematic titles that melt graphics cards, they're also trying to get into the insanely lucrative live service market. At the beginning of this year, Sony had plans to develop and release up to 12 live service games. 6 of those were planned to release by the end of 2025. That is nuts on numerous levels. Nobody has the attention span or that amount of free time to invest in all these live service games. But what is worse is how they are doing it. Sony has tasked almost all of their studios to develop a live service game. If you've watched gaming over the past 2 or 3 years, you can see that a game studio known for making great single-player games doesn't immediately make a good live service game. There are unique challenges that come with developing a game in either single-player or live service. Challenges that some studios are not ready to deal with. Just within the last year, Rocksteady tanked their reputation on their latest game, Unalive Squad milk the Justice League for money. Rocksteady had developed the Arkham Batman games, and their shift from single-player games to live service games was not something they could pull off. So no, taking a studio who has in the past delivered good single-player games and shifting their focus onto live service games they have no clue how to create is a really bad idea dreamt up by a depressed CEO. Don't believe me? Well, don't look at me. Look at the cancelled Twisted Metal live service game, the Last of Us style Naughty Dog live service game, and the entirety of London studios to demonstrate that this is already starting off questionably. Also, as a quick tangent, can Neil Druckmann create anything that isn't related to The Last of Us? But there are still other live service games coming out, like the one by Guerrilla Games, Bungie, and the other 6 live service games Sony is still producing. We can't expect all these games to succeed like Helldivers 2, and a number of these games are almost guaranteed to fail. When that happens, there is a very real chance that the studios making these games will be shut down. And with the long development times of video games, it will take years to course correct to a plan that doesn't involve gambling on the success of a live service game. This isn't just an issue that's going to affect the PS5, this is an issue that will span into the life of the PlayStation 6. It's not like Bloodborne or Gravity Rush can come back either. The studio has been minimized, and the talent that has worked on those games are never coming back. Wait, that's not entirely true. Hidetaka Miyazaki, the director of Bloodborne, briefly touched on the possibility of a sequel, but said, quote, "I'm not the one to decide." This article even goes on to show that out of all the games he has made, Bloodborne is the game Miyazaki, quote, holds closest to his heart. The creator of Gravity Rush, Keiichiro Toyama, has expressed interest in making a Gravity Rush 3. There is still a chance we could get great games from Sony. The only thing holding them back is their own stupid priorities on these over-budgeted games. So if you ask me, my opinion as a consumer, I never should have bought a PlayStation 5. There is no good reason to buy this console. The exclusive games available do not justify the purchase of this console. The new focus to live service games is undoubtedly going to affect the development of new games, and an absurd number of these games are coming out on PS4 and PC. I should have just saved up my money and bought up a decent motherboard for my PC. And as it stands right now, unless Sony turns themselves around, I won't even waste my breath trying to get a PlayStation 6 when it launches. But enough moping. Tell me in the comments what you think of this fiasco. Or you can share this video with your buddies in the gaming industry so they can use their professional credentials to tell me how wrong I am. I'm gonna go play a video game that will cheer me up. I'm not sure which one yet. That's for me to figure out. I'll see you guys some other time. Bye. And I'm not kidding about that promise. If this video reaches 200 likes, I'll give Horizon Forbidden West another shot. But the chances that we hit that like goal are very low.